Long live the Alliance.
Long ago, in a galaxy far, far away, Star Wars toys began. And Kenner continues the excitement.
The Empire Strikes Back collection.
El regreso del Jedi.
Welcome to the Star Wars Collectors Archive podcast. It's the Chivecast.
Was that Star Space Station with a snap-open space hatch?
Sometimes known as the Vintage Pod.
Wow, what a weird place.
A monthly audio magazine dedicated to vintage Star Wars toys and memorabilia. Hosted by Skye Payne, Fudd,
Chewbacca's good too.
and Stephen B. Denley.
B-Wing fighters and B-Wing pilot action, B-Wing pilot action, B-Wing pilot action, B-Wing pilot action.
Market data mined by Brisbane Mike.
Luke Skywalker handles his saber well.
And Fantastic Pete.
Boba Fett has a scene from Elton.
Tech support by the Lobot.
Prince Slade.
FX7, X-Wing Ace, Lando Calrissian, T-Timber, Microscope, R5D4, Greedo the Emperor, and Princess Nise, each sold separately from Kenner's Star Wars Return of the Jedi collection.
This month's Chivecast features Lobot and Lobarth. We check in with the Farthest From show in England and have Ron Salvatore update us on what's happening with the archive. All this, plus the beginning of a veritable podcast war on the Vintage Pod. But, actually, before we get on here with Steve, it is, May 13th, 2014, around 4:26 p.m. I am in this new loft I got here in downtown Rochester. And, the show is really late, so I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So anyways, it's the end of the semester, and so I've had all this crazy stuff to do. But I want to give you the idea of how committed we are here at the Chivecast, because I know sometimes when things are late, you worry about how committed the people are to making it. Well, I have in my left hand here a ticket to see Bruce Springsteen in concert tonight. And I'm not going. I'm not going to make that drive to Albany, New York, because this is the only time I can edit the dang podcast. So, just to give you an idea, I've never seen Bruce. It's not that big of a deal. I'm not like a super fan. But I did buy the tickets, and it's obviously going to be a good show. And I'm not going because that's how much the Chivecast means to me. I'm actually going to jump in every once in a while and talk a little bit about the editing process, just because it's fun, and maybe get a little view into the world of what makes this audio magazine so interesting to edit. Most of it is because I actually care. If I didn't care, that'd be easy. So, in the words of Bruce Springsteen, who I am not seeing tonight, ha, he, hoo, wampa wampa.
Welcome to Chivecast number 51.
Yeah, it's still April, Steve. We're
It's still April. We're on the last day, but we're getting it in there.
That's good. Keeping up with the general rhythm. I've put the microphone too close to my face, so I'm like backed up against the couch. 1 second. This is going to sound annoying to all you guys out there, and ladies. So I think we have a pretty good show. It's all about Lobot. So
Lobot, yeah.
Well, actually, I was thinking we're going to be talking about some French stuff later, and in French it should be Lobot.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, you got to drop that T.
Which, of course, in Spanish is just wolf. So it's kind of cool to think of Lobot as a wolf.
That is interesting. It's not what you would originally think.
Kind of the opposite of that kind of character.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let's see. I think we're going to have a pretty interesting show, Steve.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when I was kind of putting together my notes, I realized there's almost too much.
Yeah.
So, it's a good sign, I think, that there's actually too much to fit into one show. But hey, we do our best, right?
And we sort of tried to have a whole bunch of different people on.
Yeah.
Like for the Market Watch game, we contacted 4 or 5 people, couldn't do it, and we tried to have a couple of guests. We always do it last minute. But I think it'll be good. We're going to have, hopefully, Lobarth will come on to discuss Lobot.
I think it's a must. It's got to happen.
And don't let me forget, Steve, I don't think we've ever actually asked him the lightning round questions.
I was just thinking about that. I was wondering if we actually did when he was on last, or even the first time. Anyway, why not?
Yeah, it was so many months ago.
Yeah.
So I don't have much of a movie thought, Steve.
Okay.
But it's actually about, I was watching some, when you find yourself watching stuff on YouTube that is not interesting, but you just watch it?
Yeah, I've been there.
So there's some critic. It wasn't bad. He's like a nostalgia critic or something.
Okay.
His stuff is okay, but he did a countdown of the things that were good with the prequels, which I like that as an idea because obviously it's easy to make fun of them.
Yeah.
And he had this whole thing about the best moment of Episode 3 being the quiet moment where it's just Padme and Anakin like staring at the sunset.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Which I thought was a good point. And then I realized that the original trilogy has like 3 great moments of silence.
Okay, I'm gonna see. I want to see what you got. All right.
Okay, at least 3.
Okay.
Of course, I think the first has to be staring at the sun.
Yeah.
Staring at the suns. Although
Right.
that's almost too big of a moment. The music is almost too present in there. I don't know if
Right.
that really counts. And then,
Yeah.
of course, our figure of the month, Lobot, his great looking up.
When he gets activated, you mean?
Yeah, whatever
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is. Like,
Yeah.
I call it sort of an unblinking. I don't really know what it is that he does.
I wouldn't really want to. I wouldn't. It's like startup, but not really. Like, what do you call that?
I don't know. Hopefully, we'll be able to talk to Lobart about that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the other day when I was recording, when we were recording with David Tree, who we're going to be hearing his report from the Farthest From Jubbly the toy show he puts on.
Yeah.
I just put on Jedi, and I went upstairs and saw it. And of course, my favorite moment of all Jedi is the point where they're done talking on that bridge, and Vader just looks off, and you can just tell he kind of regrets things.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I freaked my kids out. I told them, just so you know, at some point in your life, you are going to feel as though you are having this conversation with me. Like, you're going to feel like you can't get through to me, and like you just want me to understand. And no matter how hard I try, that moment is coming.
See, that's a heavy framework for those kids, Skye.
What do you think it's like, Steve? What do you think their life is like? It's heavy framework is all I do. I only know one speed, and it's heavy framework. I'm gearing up for a 45-minute talk about French toy ads later in this show. So
Deep thoughts.
Deep thoughts, yeah.
Right, well, that's good. I think as far as silent moments go, I don't know if it really counts, but it's right before Chewie kind of does that wail when they're like debating whether or not to go look for Luke. They're just a shot of Leia being silent, and I feel like that just isn't replicated. That kind of style isn't replicated all that much.
Oh, I see. So you're not talking about Chewie's yell.
Not Chewie's yell, but right.
There's that look of apprehension on her face.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, oh, and you know what, Steve? We're probably supposed to, being a Star Wars podcast, talk about the announcement of the casting.
See, I was wondering if we were going to be able to just kind of skirt by that without bringing it up. No, I knew it would have to happen.
Well, I'm just happy Peter Mayhew's back. That's all I really care about.
Yeah.
No, I mean, serious, because I thought the rest was all going to happen, but whether or not they were going to really risk dealing with that, to me, that's the really good sign.
Well, it's because of his poor health, right? I mean, is he like getting therapy and stuff and able to walk? So I remember when we saw him, he was not in the best of states.
No, he wasn't. So
well, it's cool that he's able to jump in there.
And I just, all I can say is, if Harrison Ford doesn't act his butt off, I will never forgive him. I think the whole movie is on him. Like,
yeah, I think you're right.
I'm starting to think that all the fourth Indiana Jones is not Spielberg's fault, is not Lucas's fault. I think it's just him.
I think this is your Harrison Ford bias creeping in, man. You gotta let that go.
I mean, okay, don't get me wrong. 6 days and 7 nights, amazing.
Oh man.
I mean, he didn't step out of bounds. I mean, that's acting, you know.
Right. Oh man. Speaking of the casting thing, have you seen Inside Llewyn Davis, that new Coen Brothers movie?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, this would make more sense if you'd seen it, but 2 of the new cast members are actually in that movie, and it's all about, folk singers in the 60s and whatnot, but there's an awesome scene where Adam Driver and Oscar Isaac are singing, like recording this funky song about Kennedy. And it's just so goofy, and it's kind of like space themed, if I remember right. And ever since I saw they're both in it, I'm just picturing them both like translating that into something Star Wars, and it kind of disturbs me, but fascinates me at the same time.
That's cool. It's kind of like when the prequels came out, there were like certain movies you had to see to get to know who the people were.
Right.
Like Hayden Christensen was in some, I think, movies. My Life is a House.
Yeah.
And everyone went out to go see what Darth Vader's up to. And,
right.
Yeah. So at least it's a Coen Brothers movie.
Yeah. No, it's good. If you haven't checked it out, I think you'd like it. But yeah, just seeing those two, it just made me crack up and think of that one scene there and together singing this terrible song.
Well, that just makes me think of Feel My Heat from Boogie Nights, which, because, Steve, I associate that with Brock, because that's Brock's theme song, I then associate that being you and him singing that song together. And,
oh, man.
All day, all night, you feel my heat. Feel my heat.
But anyways, Steve, I have my whole outline here.
Yeah.
And I can't tell. Do we really do Skye Coos before Flip the Script?
I don't think there's ever really a pattern. I think it kind of depends on if one goes first, the other seems to kind of relate. So it's up to you, man. If you want to go with Skye Coo first, that's cool with me.
All right. Well, yeah. Let's do that because
all right.
Lobot is a spiritual figure for me.
Yes.
We're going to talk about that with Bart, because obviously it's just spiritual because of Bart. So I'm going to, I guess I will start with the figure.
All right.
Skye Coo. Yellow is my blouse. Beneath sleepless sky gray vest. Puffy are my sleeves. He's very fashion forward, Lobot.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, he's got Lando as his boss. He's got to keep up with it, right?
Right. And then this is actually my Skye Coo in honor of that moment.
Okay. Of the
Lobot
awakening.
raising his head.
All right.
Quiet friend, loud mute. Eyes open to world reborn, like clouds reforming.
Nicely done. Very, very poetic.
Thank you. I wrote that while I was hanging around with my kids and their friends, and they were like, "Yeah, say like his shirt's a fart." So I almost had them write a Skye Coo for me with Lobot's shirt being a fart. But
see, I always wonder like what the circumstances when you come up with these things, like where you are, and that was not what I would have pictured. So it's interesting to see where your creativity comes from.
Well, I knew that puffy are my sleeves. That's the main one that I wanted.
Yeah, right.
But it's actually fun because they're hanging out with two of their friends, and I'm good friends with their dad, and he's really into making costumes and stuff.
Oh, okay.
And he's really into the idea of being Lobot for Halloween. And so I think I'm going to be Lando. So that's going to be really exciting.
Right on.
Because then I can talk like this the whole month.
You got to gear up for it, right?
You got to eat your cereal before you go off to school. Just every single thing I said.
I think you're already pretty close.
Thank you very much, Steve. I haven't been practicing at all.
I don't know about that. Well, yeah, see, I think it always seems like the script thing kind of plays off of either your movie thought or the poem. So I think maybe we'll stick with that order for a while. All right, we ready?
Yep.
Okay.
It's getting really, really hot in here.
Flip the script.
So I guess there wasn't really any script line or anything that I'm drawing from, but just more kind of story notes. But back when Lobot was first kind of being developed, he didn't have a name, and he was just called Lando's aide, and they didn't really know what he was even going to look like. So some of the early concept paintings, he's actually like this really tall, attractive, like dark-skinned woman. And so somewhere that changed to being a bald cyborg. It's difficult to pin down when exactly, but in the later drafts, they describe him as a cyborg, and I think originally he was supposed to have quite a bit of dialogue. But the reason that he became a mute was that they made some kind of decision where he would become a lobotomized cyborg and thus a mute. And that's actually where his name came from, is the word lobotomy, which it's just funny to me to think of it in those terms.
I also think of it in sort of like an Arthur Miller way.
Yeah.
Of, like they named the character in Death of a Salesman, or he named the Death of a Salesman Willie Loman. And it's one of those names that's just, it's a great story, so...
Yeah.
It's amazingly just on the button, Willie Loman. So
Yeah.
I kind of thought of him as as a low robot, like
Yeah, there you go.
not quite a real Lobot, but a low bot.
Yeah, exactly. He needs a little hyphen in there to really get the true meaning. And then I do this every once in a while. I did this for Dengars. I kind of look in to see if there's anything funny in the expanded universe, which I guess is now off the books for the most part.
Okay, here we go. Steve's EU moment. He won't watch the prequels, but he is into the EU.
Only in internet research terms, but there was one funny bit where Lando uses Lobot's computer interface abilities to disarm bombs that have been strategically placed throughout Cloud City as a result of an Ugnaught insurrection. And so, just the thought of
Ugnaught insurrection.
Yeah, I mean, I remember. I think it was someone, Ron, or someone came up with that.
Ron and Tommy were going off about
like a strike, you know,
the
and
unionized
all that.
Ugnaughts. Yeah.
But just to find that there was some trace of that in Star Wars literature just really cracked me up.
Well, that's great. That's a real testament to our audience that no one mentioned that. We talked for like 4 months in a row about how funny it would be if Ugnaughts ever revolted, and there's a whole storyline.
Apparently they did.
That's good. Steve, what's that sound? Oh no, Steve. I think he's finally back. I think
long absence.
I think our prayers have been answered. Is that Lobart? Bring out the Lobart.
Bart?
To the windows! To the back! To the back! Till the sweat drops off John Hoss's head. Till I find that 41 back. 41 back.
Hey, Space Freaks.
Hey, what's up, Lobart? We just recorded already, like 5 minutes, but I was being weird and just saying weird stuff that didn't make any sense, so I'm just redoing it. So you guys just have to wing it like you're doing it the first time. Bart, you did a good job saying Space Freaks, even better this time. Are you feeling it, Bart?
Sweet. I'm feeling it. Yep.
Awesome.
I've been adjusting my cyborg headband
Nice.
for our interaction.
Now,
It's tough, though. Lobot doesn't say anything, right?
He doesn't.
He says nothing.
He says
He's a silent.
we had to get you're kind of like our mascot, Bart.
Perfect. Scratch my belly.
Now, I don't know if we've ever shared it on air, Bart, but you're one of the longest-lasting Lobot focus collectors in the world now. A lot of them have kind of dropped out. And how long have you been collecting Lobot, Bart?
Ever since you started to pay me off in Lobot-related memorabilia.
We're brothers, Bart and I. We have the same last name. And our other brother, Amos, who listens to the show from time to time, he was at our house. And Bart, how would you describe our house for people who've never been there, our family home where our parents live?
Let's see, Grey Gardens meets Watto's garage.
Yeah. It's the kind of place where you can open up a drawer and you'll find the box for my Super Nintendo Star Wars video game. And I left the box there in 1992. And it's just there. It's just no one's ever moved it. Every once in a while I'll be like, hey, look, there's the box. No one put it there. I put it there in 1992. So Amos found a whole stack of Topps Star Wars cards, and he was going through looking for the cool ones and saying, okay, this goes to Amos, this goes to Ward, this goes to Bart, this goes to Skye. And what was it that you said, Bart?
I don't remember.
Oh, you said, don't give me Lobot.
Oh, okay. I knew I had to suffer for some reason, and that's the reason.
And so he threw you over the card, and it's the greatest Topps card of all time. Hey, if there's anyone out there, a while ago they did the Topps Vault thing, okay, where they released a bunch of. It's actually pretty cool. We never talked about it on the show, I don't think.
No,
but,
I don't think so.
Topps Cards released pre-production material of their cards, and you could just buy them, and they were pretty cheap. And they must have done one for this one card, which it just says Lobot's Task. And what's he doing in that card, Bart? You must remember that.
Yeah, he's like interfacing with the wall computer, main computer, even though he's connected to it already. Backing up his hard drive, I guess.
He's basically just talking to a wall. and it's Lobot's task. And so when Bart started, because the Museum, so what happened was, I used to live really close to Bart, right, Bart? We lived like, 20 minutes away?
Yep.
Yeah, and
Bay Area.
Bay Area. Then I moved down to Santa Barbara, and that was right around the time when I thought, okay, let's start a Chewbacca website, which people still laugh at, by the way, when I told them. And so I thought, well, I should learn how to do a website, and Bart can help me, and Bart can teach me, and this could be like a way to keep us together, and just kind of a fun thing to do. And that's how I paid Bart, was with Lobot stuff.
Now, I have to say, I did go all in, because I did spend my own money on some vintage items too. So I have crossed over. It's not just pure bribery that brought me into the hobby.
Right, yeah, because I got you the 65 back proof and the 31 back proof, but you bought the QC sample yourself, right?
There you go. Yep.
Yeah. So that's the sort of origin, and sometimes we don't actually get that syrupy and sweet on the show, Steve. I mean, we do from time to time.
Sometimes.
But that's kind of sweet, right?
You guys are brothers. You can't if there's any good times right now, right?
Yeah, and Bart, we've had a lot of problems with the show lately, like WordPress not working and the show notes not showing up and failure to interface with Android devices. And I'm gonna need your help, Bart. And you know what's hanging on my wall right now?
No.
41 back debut card Lobot action figure with the free coin offer sticker. So it was a Lobot so unpopular, it was the first Lobot ever sold, and then it stayed on there until the very bitter end when no one bought it. And I hang that up on my wall as a reminder of you and as a reminder of the fact that I'm terrible at shipping things. But now that's going to be your payment for helping us out with the technical issues. How does that sound, Bart?
Sweet. Back to the old days. Bring it back.
That's right. All right, cool. Well, that's enough syrupy stuff. Should we hit the news?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool.
Watch out!
It's Kenner's News. It's Kenner's News. It's Kenner's News.
Here's the news.
All right. Well, we're already pretty polyvocal, but we did get to interview David Tree, and that was pretty fun. Hey, Steve.
Yeah, it was fun. It was. I wasn't sure it was actually going to happen, but I'm glad that it did. I did that kind of. I woke up from your text message as a reminder because I had no idea that we were supposed to be doing it at that time. I kind of got ready and it all worked out. I probably sound kind of zonked in it if I do say anything at all. But.
Oh yeah, because it was like 9 o'clock in the morning for me, 6 o'clock in the morning for Steve, and then the person who were interviewing Bart was in England.
Yeah.
So they were at some kind of party. So I think he'd been selling toys and partying all afternoon. So we were all in different places of the map. But you want to have a listen, Bart?
Yes, that sounds like a good one.
All right, Skye back here again. So we tried to record this show actually at, with him passing around the microphone, but they had technical issues, and they felt really bad about it. So as a podcaster, it was hard for me to know what to do because it's totally cool they didn't have that issue, but we still wanted him on the show. So you're actually just going to hear him kind of come in and sort of talk about it, but it wasn't what he had in mind. And then, as part of what takes the show so long, you're going to hear me play a little clip of some song that's from some singer dude who's from Southeast England. And so it took me 5 minutes to find some famous singer who's from Southeast England or from Hampshire. Hampshire? Because I know that I think Black Sabbath is from the South, and I could have put them, but I put this other dude. So that's kind of the reason, little touches to make people who might live in Hampshire, a little bit happier. So anyways, here's the interview with the Jubbly Wump master himself, David Tree.
So I fumble for your figure in the darkness just to make it go away. But you don't lie there any longer. I know that's my fault, so I've been pounding on the floor and I've been crawling.
We had this whole plan to record I was going to be at the New York Club meeting, but yesterday my son decided to go over to a friend's house and eat a hard-boiled egg that had been left out since Easter.
Oh, man.
And it is actually a week after Easter as we're recording this. So
Yes.
he was up all night coming out of both ends. So I couldn't make it down to Albany. And then we were going to call David Tree at the Farthest From festival. But stuff got kind of gummed up there. And actually all we can really have right now is just sort of a quick report from him. And just to sort of hear his voice. I was going to do it all in the voice of Dengar. He said I could. But apparently I might have offended some people. Do I offend David people with my British impressions?
No, I think you've got to do it the whole time.
All right.
Please, can we do a whole episode with it? Because that would just be amazing.
Dengar's going. Okay. So anyway, so you were actually at the Farthest From festival. Is that right, David?
I was actually at the Farthest From festival. It was wet. Started off with a lot of rain, but like as the days progressed, it's got nice and sunny. No, it's been a blast. A lot of in terms of the UK community, the usual suspects come down to like have a look around and stall holders. But also, what's kind of cool is each time we do one of these events, you're getting new people coming along who've just like almost a rediscovery of things, they're kind of, oh yeah, no, I just started getting some of these. We had a guy who was super cool actually, like chatting to him for ages. He designed skate parks.
Wow.
I mean, that is a cool job.
Yeah.
And he's just started getting back into like collecting vintage toys.
That's awesome.
So I was having a real good chat with him, and this job must pay pretty well because he was like saying, he wants to get, a set of 12 backs from the word go kind of.
Right.
I'm like, well, this is kind of like the expectation you're looking at. And he's like, yeah, no, that's cool. I just want to get into this stuff again. But each time we do these things, you're getting a whole new crowd. And I think that's kind of key to what we do here, because, it keeps it fresh, it keeps it good fun, and everybody, enjoys it, all around.
Now, David, I'm sometimes, not always as well informed as I could be. And one of the main things I've always had a problem with is, I believe I called your Farthest From, what did I call it at one point?
Jubbly Wampus.
The Jubbly Wampus. I called it a Jubbly Wampa because I just didn't quite understand what it was. So, is it a toy show? Is it an art show? Is it a collector's gathering? How would you describe it besides a Jubbly Wampa?
Well, it's kind of like all of that.
Okay.
Rolled in. I mean, to kind of give anybody who's never been to here to the show before, put it into context, we have a shop along the south coast of the UK, but we're in the middle of nowhere, and everybody's always like saying it's a real trek to like get out to us. Although it's a lovely part of the country, it's like in a national park, and you've got wild animals everywhere and all the rest of it. It's off the beaten track. It's not exactly easy for folk to like come and visit.
Right.
So I decided to do the event, but to kind of like play on that, just literally call it Farthest From, because it's like farthest from nowhere.
Right.
And we just keep the stall rents and the entry just to the bare minimum. So it's kind of, even if someone has a bad day, it's not really kind of cost them an arm and a leg to like attend these things. So we've done 5 shows now. But it is a combination of toy collectors selling wares. You're getting swap meet, so people bringing down their own bits and pieces. But to kind of build on and sort of create a community where there's at times, and because I run a toy store, I work in like different collector communities. At times, some communities are a little bit more lacking than others. So it's trying to get like everybody to get together in a similar sense that what you have out stateside. I think what happens out in those different groups is really cool.
Right.
But we'll get people to present a talk, and it could be literally, I don't care what it is. It could be anything, as long as it's anything pre-95.
Right.
And we've had in the past, Lee Bullock did like the 12-inch dolls. We've had one on 3-packs. I've done a couple of Star Wars bits that are used in other Palatoy toy lines. So where you have like the Robin of Sherwood, that's always like the one that always, resonates with people with like the Catapult and the Village and Friar Tuck and whatnot. But a lot of Star Wars parts were used in Action Force, which is the UK version of G.I. Joe.
Right.
So I've done like a presentation on that. Today we've had Paul Bateman down, who is one of the regulars off Rebel Force Radio.
Right.
But also intrinsically linked with Ralph McQuarrie, who's like the archivist for a lot of Ralph McQuarrie stuff. So he's been down like presenting, talking about the work of Ralph McQuarrie, but also giving people a few sort of sneak glimpses of some rare bits of artwork and sketches of Ralph's work.
Wow.
And some that I know that you would just completely freak out at Skye as well. You know, there's some cool little alternate sketches of Kashyyyk there as well.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I mean, Steve and, I mean, I've always really been pushing Paul's podcast, and anytime anyone listens to me, you know, what's the best Star Wars podcast out there? For me, it's actually Star Wars Influences. That's the one that he does with Jimmy Mack. And it's just, for what I want from a podcast, that's just it, because every time you listen, it's something new. It's some kind of, even though he debunked my theory, and we're actually we're going to talk to you again in June. We're actually going to be on the floor, and it's going to make this live, fun, pubby thing.
No technical issues.
Right. No. Right. And but that doesn't. But what really is cool is that like I was very pleased to be shot down by him on the show. I'm like, oh, good. That's why I brought it up, because obviously I must be wrong. But yeah. No. And actually, also too, I wanted to talk about this Farthest From thing, Steve. Okay, so just so you know, I did a little bit of research here, and do you know what Farthest From is in European perspective?
No.
Okay, it's an hour and 51 minutes from London. So, just to give you an idea, I was going to drive to Albany, which is 3 hours and 9 minutes away, to go to a collectors club meeting of about Tom Quinn's basement and eat some like buffalo dip. And I love it. I love the difference in roots. So it's really not that far, David. You should just pretend. You know, everyone just pretend like it's. I mean,
you know it. Steve knows it. I know it. But the number of people just like, oh, can't you hold this close to London or in the Midlands? And you're just like thinking, it's not that bad.
No,
My God, you know,
it's not bad at all.
And then 10 minutes later, they're walking around with something that they just picked up for peanuts, or you know, that they've been looking for ages, and they're happy. It's just that initial momentary, like kind of like moan and whinge because they've been sat in a car for an hour.
But before I come across as an American chauvinist, there is a state in America called Rhode Island, and my brother's from Rhode Island, and people there, honestly, if they have to travel more than 15 minutes, they start complaining, and they bring a sleeping bag. Like, it's all what you're used to. It's all conceptions of space and time. So it's not Europeans. It's just if you're used to living in a smaller place, larger distances. So yeah, I definitely. The idea of there being a toy show that cool, only an hour and 50 minutes away.
Oh yeah,
it's just great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's it. Sell it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean,
the check's in the mail.
Yeah, exactly. You can pay us in Farthest From points. I mean, you know, we pay people in Chive points, but you can pay us in Farthest From points.
I can totally set up a bogus currency, you know, so don't worry.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're good at faking stuff, so like.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, now we know what a Jubbly Wumpa is, and you know, Steve and I are travelers. Maybe we'll sometime make it out there by
that would be
by episode
great.
100.
Yeah. Sometime in the road.
Yeah.
Start the Kickstarter now.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, we got to start asking people for money. All right, well, well, cool, David. Well, we'll you prefer David, yeah?
No, Dave.
Oh, Dave.
You like Dave?
Okay.
Sound like you're telling me off. So,
what's that?
being reprimanded.
Well, isn't your name David Tree on everything? Yeah.
Yeah, that's only because I think someone else took Dave Tree.
Oh, okay.
No, for whatever reason. Yeah, but I just put like David on there. So.
All right, cool.
But,
well, good. Well, we'll talk to you again in June, and we'll be on the floor. Maybe we'll talk to some of the usual cast of characters who come down there. I know Steve and I have a lot of fans of the show, even though I usually do a bad accent every once in a while. You know, I tried to do the Dengar for 2 seconds, but I can't do it with an actual British person on the other end.
Come on, you're so good. It's so good. I close my eyes and I'm transported to like a sci-fi Oliver Twist. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, like Fagin Dengar. That was kind of what I was going for. Yeah.
You totally nailed it. So I think that's good.
All right. Well, and then at some point in the last episode, I lost it. I was actually trying to do a sort of Paul Bateman-ish accent, but then it devolved into Australian. That's the problem with Americans. We just go straight to Australian. After a little bit, we'll be like, and when I was in the Stratfordshire upon Avon, I was looking for the wallaby dingo. Like,
well, really, at the end of the day, what's the difference? It's all the same.
Oh,
so,
come on.
I think it's good.
Yeah, it's all good. All right, cool. Well, thank you for coming on and talking to us. And
no worries. Thank you.
Look forward to talking to you down the road.
Thank you very much.
So I fumble for your figure in the darkness just to make it go away. But you're not lying there any longer, and I know that that's my fault. So I've been pounding on the floor and I've been crawling.
Okay, this is Skye again in the editing process. It's now 5:49 p.m. I'd probably be almost at the show by now. I wanted to say that another reason I'm editing now instead of seeing The Boss is that I couldn't do it over the weekend, because in the weekend I'm finally making it to a collector's meeting. I've missed the last couple ones in Albany, and I'm driving down to one in Connecticut. Now that's like a 5.5 hour drive, and you just heard me kind of laugh about the Farthest From and about how far people can go to meet up with collectors. And it's just one of the themes of the show. We talk all about the inner circle not existing, but it's just a group of friends. And I can imagine there's like 40 or 50 of you out there who are within 5.5 hours of Micro Rob's place. And it's a public meeting. He said anyone can come, just send him an email and he'll give you the address. And I just think that gives a real idea of how open it is, So if you can hear this, I'm going to be posting this dang thing, hopefully by tomorrow, which will be Thursday. So you're going to hear it. You just get on the forum, you find Micro Rob, ask him for his address, and you show up on Sunday at around 11 a.m. Because that's how you have the most fun in this hobby. More fun than learning about 21 backs. More fun than Carbalon is actually getting together and talking about these things. And that's what David Tree did over in Farthingtonshire. And that's what we're going to be doing in Connecticut this weekend. All right, let's get back to the show. I'm so dedicated, guys. I didn't even go out to dinner. I'm making myself like couscous with mustard sardines, which is going to be interesting. And instead of watching season 8 of 24, I'm going to be editing the show. But that's hard because I love 24. Yeah. Tony? Yeah. It's Jack. Yeah. Did you get it? Yeah. Yeah. Did he? I don't think he had anything Lobot. We didn't ask him to say anything Lobot, did we?
I don't think we asked him to, no.
Do we know, is the actor who played Lobot British?
John Hollis, right? Yeah.
Born in Nottingham, England.
Oh, born in Nottingham.
No.
Wow, so if he
died in England.
Did he?
Oh.
Yeah, he's someone who, if he had died in the Twitter age, it would have been a big deal.
Absolutely.
He died 10 years too early. But imagine if he died this year, everyone would be like, R.I.P. Lobot, you were dope,
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. Do people tweet you are dope, Steve?
Well, maybe not those precise words, but yeah.
Hashtag bodacious, brah.
Oh, man.
All right. And the other reason we brought you on, Bart, is you're always good at kind of keeping me reined in, but you're not going to do it this time.
It might, no, yeah. Neither of us will be able to really contain this.
So, Bart, this is my question for you. Are you ready?
I think so.
Does the Chivecast suck?
No, the Chivecast does not suck.
Okay, are you just saying that because you're my brother and you say that you're Steve's friend?
I want to keep Steve out of this. This is personal.
Okay.
I have been listening to it. I went back a couple episodes to try to catch up. I knew we were going to be on the ether, as it were. And, I have a lot of fun with it. And I'm not all that deep into the collecting side. So I think the stories and the news and things. I mean, Star Wars, there was news. The new Star Wars stuff is coming out, right? I mean, we got announcements on the front of Yahoo about Star Wars. So it's fun to see where it's going to go. So.
Well, it was brought to our attention that, anyways. So it turns out, Bart, that some people think that the Chivecast does suck, and that's okay. And so there's another forum that's out in England called the Star Wars Forum UK, or the SWFUK. And it turns out there's a whole thread about starting their own podcast.
Right? Yeah.
Now that's cool, right, Bart? Like another vintage podcast?
Yeah, bring it on.
Exactly, right? More the merrier, right? And they were talking about how they wanted to be a little bit less broad than us. Like a little bit more focused.
Yep.
Which I think is cool. I think on sort of an egotistical basis, when we started this, everyone was like, you could never do a podcast about vintage toys. That's too niche or niche. I don't know. I'm too much of a French professor. How are you supposed to pronounce that in English, Steve? Niche or niche?
I don't know. I've always heard niche, but...
Okay. So that's too niche. And then now there's people coming out there saying that our podcast isn't niche enough. I mean, that's pretty cool. Hey, Steve?
I mean, it's an interesting take. I mean, I think we've kind of gone all over the board over the years, so it's hard to really define us. I have a hard time, telling people what it is exactly that we talk about, which in some ways is good. I mean...
Yeah. So, anyway, I responded to their thread, and I was very diplomatic. Now, they had some, let's just kind of go through some of their critiques, okay?
All right.
Because obviously we're very open to critiques. Some would say too open to critiques, because every time someone says the show's too long, I try to make it shorter, and every time someone says it's too short, I try to make it longer. But, let's see, I'm going to keep it anonymous here. I listen to Galaxy of Toys, and although I enjoy the show, it focuses on modern collecting rather than vintage. I also listen to the Chivecast, which I prefer, but in my opinion is slightly better, although again, I always enjoy listening to them and currently working my way through the archives of the pod. So that's not too bad. That's kind of like a general, don't listen to it too much. Here's another comment. I think the hour mark is a decent sort of length. Some of the Chivecast podcasts are over 2 hours, and it's sometimes hard to get through it all. I'm a firm believer in leaving the audience wanting more, so they come back to download the next podcast. What do you think? Is that a fair comment there, Bart?
They run long, but there's no reason you have to listen to the whole thing.
Yeah, especially whenever we have lame, guests on, right, Steve?
You guys are definitely brothers. You can sense that. No, I mean, but this is something that's been raised by other listeners before, and yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of how you digest it, I guess.
And that's reasonable. But then there was this comment, which I must take some umbrage to.
Okay.
Whilst informative at times, I do find the Chivecast can descend into idle witterings for the sake of filling time. I don't fill time. You don't fill time. Do you know how aggravating it is, how long the show is? Every minute of the show is another 10 minutes of my life that I got to edit and put together and post and wait to put up. I wish this thing were 5 minutes long, Steve.
It'd be much easier on your soul, I think, Skye.
Now listen, there's two sides, okay? There's the Chewbacca side of me, right? And that's the part of me that responded to this saying, hey, go for it, guys. You can do it. We're not for everybody, and I understand. You got to do what you want, but I know I would listen. And the Chewbacca side of me is going to listen. But then there's also the Emperor side, Steve. You know that.
Yes, they are the two sides.
I just got to say, it makes for better podcasting when people get angry and bitter. I don't know if I can do it. I'm too nice of a guy. What do you think, Steve? Should I let it go or just be nice?
I think you can kind of walk the line. Because, there's definitely reason to kind of...
Idle witterings for the sake of filling time. Okay. Yeah, because that's what I like to do in my free time. Just sit there listening to myself talk. Okay, how about this one? I stopped listening due to the presenters. Now, Steve, you can say what you want about Skye Landell Payne, but no one, and I mean no one except me, talks that way about Stephen B. Dammer. Bart, all right, it's Skye again. I'm about halfway through my couscous and mustard sardines. Now, it's one of the crazy things that the primary belligerent on the forum, who leveled the most insanely cruel and hurtful and ow comments, happened to send me a message literally 10 minutes after I started editing. So I recorded this, April 30th, whatever it was, and the whole time I've just been sitting here, and I've got this whole long rant where I just go off on these guys, and I just start screaming and throwing stuff all around and cursing their names. But then I get a really nice text that just says, hey, I was maybe a little bit, I really appreciate the work you do, and it's harder than it looks. And so anyways, it turns out you're not actually going to get to see the Emperor. You're just going to have to live with Chewie. What I will do, because it's kind of funny, is I'll just sort of leave little segments of what I've said, and you can kind of paste them together. But I'll take it to sort of the end, where we start the, what I like to call, soon-to-be friendly war. They want it just to be hard data. They want it to be like the Matrix, but with just Star Wars backs, just flying back, like 79A, 22B. They want robots, not Lobots. I will eat a Chewbacca figure, okay? I'm serious. I'll eat the damn thing. I'll chop it up and I'll eat it. That's why, because we gave him, in his words, the best interview he's ever had. It was idle dithering to fill up time, obviously. But a podcast is also about my brother's dog's armpits having abrasions. Leave being nationalistic jerks to us, and you guys be the evolved Europeans who learned from 2 world wars that nationalism leads to nothing but pain and misery. Am I wrong, Bart? They want robots, not Lobots. I will eat a Chewbacca figure, okay? Those dogs' armpits having abrasions. So Bart had to leave. He got so upset.
Yeah.
Now, Steve, that's... you know why I want to do this, Steve? I usually don't like to get into debates and stuff like that. And I really do want them to do the show. And I'm sure it'll be good. And there's totally enough space for them to do it. And if they think that we're not good, that's totally fine. I totally get that. And I know the show is really long. The show's really long because that's what I like to listen to. I like to listen to long shows. And we talk too much about my brother's dog's armpits because the show is free. And the show takes hours upon hours upon hours upon hours upon hours. And we do get a lot from it. I mean, we get people really care about it, and they treat us well, and I get to meet a lot of nice people and stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, the other thing, from my perspective, and it's kind of, regretful in the sense that, this is our main way to kind of stay connected. Like, tonight, we started recording, 3 seconds after we first talked to each other. So it's, it's just the nature of what we enjoy doing. So it's, I'm sure there's people that won't be interested in all that, but that's fine. We get a lot out of it ourselves. So,
but I do want to say that there were a couple folks who came to our defense, and I really appreciated it. And the thing that they both said, and these are people we've had on the show before. I don't want to name any names because I don't want to go after the people who are saying it. Because whatever, I don't care. You guys can go after us. It's actually cool that we have haters. I mean, that's awesome. That's a sign we've done something right.
Yeah, it's a sign that we have some kind of influence.
But just said that we are. They referred to you as a legend, and I love that.
I don't know if that was me. I think it might have been the two of us. No. Maybe a typo.
It says, and Skye does bring a real sense of fun to the proceedings, with Steve being his straight man. The guy's a legend. That's you, Steve. You're a legend.
Nah.
When you're not doing idle witterings. But the one comment was, at times it gets to be a little inner circle heavy. That was the comment.
Yeah.
And, Steve, I think that we should really just sort of... I think that is true. I think at this point we just need to acknowledge that some of the older collectors don't acknowledge the newer collectors in a way that's very appealing. And that even includes me.
Right.
I don't mean to be that way, but, I don't think I hung out with Trevor at all at Celebration 6, right? And I really like Trevor, and he's helped us out, and I've talked to him online, and, he's the kind of guy where I wish I had more hours in the day because I love to hang out with him. But, I was probably hanging out with you or with Ron or whatever, with someone who, is been in the hobby longer and who I've known for a longer period of time,
Right.
But that's the whole point. We've talked about it before, about, that I used to be angry and I used to feel on the outside. But the thing is about our show, and I really do mean it, it's like there is an inner circle to the show. And it's not the archive.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Right.
I mean, Brisbane Mike, he is Chris Georgoulias on this podcast. Well, I mean, Chris Georgoulias is Chris Georgoulias, but you know what I mean? That's what matters to us. And the thing is, the archive can't be that way. A forum can't be that way. There's something about this show where you interact with it and we interact with you, and it creates kind of an inner circle just for us, the Chivecast inner circle.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
There's a lot of you out there, and pretty much if you've ever written to the show, you're in it, because that means that you care and that you're into it. And I've come up with a term, Steve. You're either in the inner circle or you're an outer jerkle.
It's a choice we got to make.
It does make me self-conscious, because then I think about their critiques, and then I start thinking, well, boy, we just spent 20 minutes talking about how they were doing this, and then that's definitely not talking about the intricacies of Carbolon production.
So you gotta just don't get too sensitive. We do what we do.
Yeah, that's right. We do what we do, and we've been doing it for a long time, Steve.
Yeah, that's going on 4th or 5th year.
Yeah, going on the 4th, 5th year. So, anyways, that was that was fun. It was great. You know what? Screw those guys. We're starting a full war with you. Try to do something better. Seriously, I completely dare you. Come up with a better show than this. Seriously, do it. I dare you. Okay? You got it, SWF UKs? This is a challenge. You down, Steve?
The gauntlet is thrown.
And this isn't to England. We got plenty of great British listeners and friends over there. This isn't a thing. I don't care about Rebel Scum versus SWF UK. SWF UK is a great forum. I love it. But their podcast stinks. It's garbage. Okay, they haven't made it yet. But when they do, it's going to be bad. And we're officially at war. Right, Steve?
Can I just go Swiss?
No!
No.
Because, Steve, see, you don't get it. See, if we go to war, that's going to make them more likely to do the show, and then we'll have more content for the vintage hobby, which is all I really care about in the first place.
See, it's the ultimate.
See, I don't actually want to go to
goal,
war
right?
with them. I want them to think I'm at war with them. Those jerks. Yes, it didn't work. I explained my reasoning. Oh well, that's the problem with being too much of a relativist. So other news, Steve. Another great member of the inner circle, not the outer jerkle. Can I be a part of the inner jerkle? Can I just call myself that?
See, that's where we.
That's my real home. But yeah, Trevor, who was a big hit last month, by the way.
Yeah, no, he was great. It's really awesome to have him on, and hopefully we can do that again soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, he sent us a good kind of forum roundup, and it's cool because it's not all toy related, which was something we're trying to kind of ramp up, is the non toy stuff.
See, that's a good example of
right
a critique that was really helpful. I think it was Scott Bradley who just said, "Hey, you guys used to do this more. Do it more." You know.
Right.
And that's great. So let's see. So he talks about the Atari 2600 game artwork. And so we'll put up a picture of the show notes, provided that you have a... Oh, I switched phones, by the way, Steve. Did I tell you that last month?
You did,
no.
Yeah.
Well, I can't get the show notes to show up on my phone.
Oh, you didn't tell me that.
Like, I can't get the enhanced version. So I'm now one of those dudes who emails me going, Skye, I've got the Kyocera 11242822 database. How come I can't get the live thing? And I just don't even begin to look at those emails. There's no way of me knowing. But this is from a guy who goes by Last Chance to Own It.
Right.
And what is it, Steve?
So it's the original artwork for the cover of the Atari 2600 arcade game, which I hope we can get to that as our sponsor later, because it's one of my favorite pieces of commercial work ever done. But no, the artwork for itself is like actually gigantic. So it's what would be on the little cartridges you buy at the store. I guess the original is like 31 by 42 big, so it's huge.
Wow.
And it was done by Bob Peake, who he did a lot of movie posters for like Star Trek and other sci-fi movies and other video games. But yeah, it's, I guess this only surfaced not that long ago. He came upon it. But it's an awesome piece of original art that is not toy related. But it's completely like in the vintage realm, I would say.
Right. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the Toy Galaxy headers. It kind of has that feel to it.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's weird. Like I saw the original like Star Trek the motion picture poster somewhere recently, and it has that kind of rainbow look to it. If I remember right, and this kind of has that too. You know what I'm talking about? Like, on the bottom of the logo, it's kind of got this weird rainbow beam coming off of it. It totally reminds me of the Star Trek poster. I'm not sure if he did that one, but
right.
I guess I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
Hey, Steve, we actually already did the arcade game commercial. Yeah.
Did we? When?
I don't know. But I'm pretty sure we did it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's disappointing.
That's it. I'm stopping doing the show. I guess we could probably do it again.
No.
All right, okay. I'll put it in right now. Here is Star Wars the Arcade Game TV commercial.
It's great in the arcade.
Just watch it. Or I'll watch it. You've probably watched it.
Star Wars. It's great in the arcade. Whoa! TIE fighters! Fireballs! Coming right at me! Watch the laser towers! Aim for the tops! Pick up the titles! Use the force! They're coming too fast! It's flame here! Wait! My shields are gone! Alright! Shots going in!
Oh, some game, huh?
Some game! In a galaxy of video games, there is only one. Star Wars, the arcade.
Some game!
Oh man, I get the like impression when I see that guy's face, it almost looks like it's being stretched or magnified in some creepy like Raiders of the Lost Ark way, where his head might explode, but they don't quite get there.
Right.
Did you get that? Yeah. It's definitely some game. I've never. It has to be.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you not like believe that guy?
And then I guess we should go into. He also said, "Do you want to tell what?" Actually, no. We'll get into that with Bart. And then he mentions the prototype Limelight by Matthias.
Yes. Kind of expanding on, I think he did an earlier Limelight we talked about with Luke, but he's got a pretty extensive run on all of the early bird figures, including some first shots that could be the ones that were used in all that original kind of material, which is pretty insane when you think about it.
Yeah, because that the first shots that were used to sell the early bird set, and it's just beautiful. Right. It takes first shots which some don't think are that special, but it gives kind of an extra specialness to them because it was used in the original promotional material. What I love is that he pairs it with a slide, with an actual Kenner slide, and we'll show that in the show notes. Well, if Lobart ever earns his Lobot, we'll have the show notes and we'll put that up in the enhanced version. But Matthias just has great sense of display. I mean, again, not that I would know, because when I went to his house, everything was in boxes except for his one Chirpa on a TIE Pilot card. But it's just.
I'm sure it was still displayed well, though. Right?
No, it was just in a box. It was just so annoying. And that's definitely worth taking a look at all of his run, because it's actually hard to fully understand. Yeah, I mean, I guess, what we should probably do? We should probably come back to Matthias's Luke run when we do another Luke figure. So maybe when we do Luke Poncho or something, we should come back to him. Maybe give that a chance to come back. Why did I say give it a chance? Give it a chance to come back and talk about his run, because we didn't really talk to anybody back in the original first figure, so I think that'd be a fun idea.
Yeah.
But it's just great to have these kind of historically significant pieces. And there's another Limelight, too, by friend of the show, Tim Eckholt.
Yes, I mean, this has to be one of the most, jaw-dropping Limelights in a while, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, no, this is exactly what I would want to have as a collection.
Yeah, right. So he's got an extensive 2D pre-production run on the first 21 characters, so all the Star Wars characters. And, have you actually seen some of the pictures of his display, too?
I haven't seen him in a while, but...
Okay, yeah. It's like a museum for the first 21, really. It's incredible, and, I mean, you can tell he has dedication.
Yeah.
I mean, it's to track all of those down.
I mean, just to give you an idea,
crazy.
too, I mean, he has a nice mixture of chromolins and proofs and even photo art.
I mean, like the run for Kenobi, for instance, it's just, it's mind-blowing. And I think for a lot of collectors that kind of had runs on these going as they kind of moved on to other things, it seems like a lot of it kind of accumulated with Tim, which in a lot of ways is awesome because it's just bringing everything together.
Right.
It's insane.
Yeah, well, it's funny because the second photo art of Obi-Wan that used to belong to my good friend Dean out in Finland or Denmark or Finland. And I remember he said, "I'm never going to sell it," and well, there it is. and most of his Chewies actually came. When I bought all of my Chewies from Todd Hudson, who sold out his collection, I had doubles, and I sold those to him, and I took the money from that to buy my one-sided 12-back proof.
Wow.
And then I gave the other half to my wife as a gift. Not that I'm angry about that. Star Wars FUK.
Skye, you need a beer?
No, I'm good. I'm actually in a good mood. Yeah, and then if you look at this run, I mean, there's no stairs that could contain this. If you go back to the old
that's exactly I'm imagining like one of those crazy like Buddhist temples. The stairs would just go up forever. Like, and this would be all these proof cards would just be kind of lining that.
Yeah,
it's really impressive, and it's awesome that he's. Posted publicly for everyone to check out. I'm hoping. I mean, we tried to get Tim on tonight actually, and it just wasn't going to work out tonight. But I'm hoping we can get him on again or on soon because he needs to kind of. I'd love to hear some backstory on all this. It's crazy.
Yeah, and as the photo art for so many of this is really funny. It's like a graveyard of hey, I wonder where that went because I remember when the second photo art of Boba Fett came up. And it was for sale, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago. And I remember the guy wanted $10,000 for it, and everyone was like, "He's crazy! He's crazy!"
Oh,
but I get the sense you could get that much for it now. So we hope to have him on. And a lot of people don't remember this, but whenever you see that, okay, and it's easy to get jealous. I'm jealous of his collection. Okay, I see it and I go, "Why don't I have that? I should have that." Right? That's what we all feel. He is the reason that there is the Amenity coin.
Yeah,
he made that and gave that. So if you have one of those from the Celebration 6 party, that is his personal gift to you. Like, no one paid him. He made them. They were designed by Lobart by Matthias and Lobart, and I think those are the main designers. But he's the reason that we have them. So that's just a great example of like, okay, so this guy is sitting here and he keeps a low profile, and you say, now, why does he have all this great stuff? Well, you know what? He also gives back, and giving back doesn't have to be, posting 1,000 times. It can be just doing something really nice and paying attention, and so yeah. But well, I think I don't know. I still feel like we can't discuss the Steve Denny article.
Yeah, it requires a lot of in-depth reading.
Yeah,
it's funny. Like I made like this whole list of notes when I first read it, thinking that we were going to talk about it, and now I'm like not making sense of my notes.
Yeah, it's I think we should just push that off again.
Okay.
I think that we should tell our listeners, get off your butts, go to KennerCollector.com, and make sure you read that article. and hopefully we'll maybe we'll just like surprise people on it and bring it up after it's fallen out of people's thoughts.
Yeah, that always works. We were kind of doing that with a lot of other stuff anyway, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Being a vintage podcast.
Yeah.
That sounds good to me.
So good. Should we call Ron now? Do you think he's ready?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think if he's good to go, why not?
All right, so we're here with Ron Salvatore, the Holy Ghost. How's it going, Ron?
All right, guys. How's it going?
Pretty good.
Yeah, it's going well. I've been emailing Ron. I'm hoping to crash at his house this weekend.
Yeah, sounds good. It should be fun.
I'm in between apartments, Ron, so either
in between apartments.
Yeah, either I come down to you or I sleep in the supermarket parking lot in the back of my van in a sleeping bag. So it's up to you.
That's all right. We'll find a spot for you.
Yeah. But, we're a little bit behind because we were going to just jump on with Ron to do a new feature, which is, we haven't named it yet, Steve. I think we'll call it, What's Up on the Archive? Or, what do you think, Ron?
Unnamed feature. I don't know. I mean, I haven't even thought about it.
Yeah. See, that's why we get criticized, Ron, for not preparing enough.
I think it's better to kind of just wing it in some ways.
Yeah.
Seems like it's more fun and fancy-free that way.
Well, Steve brought up a story that has absolutely nothing to do with Star Wars. What's the story, Steve?
Well, it's the whole E.T. landfill recovery, which, I don't know, it just seems like it's something a lot of collectors are talking about. I just think it's pretty funny. But I don't know, it's tangential, but, what do you guys have to say? Did you ever try the E.T. Atari game back in the day?
Oh, God, yeah, it was terrible. I remember my mom wouldn't buy it for me because it was, over $20, which was really expensive for an Atari game. And my friend got it for Christmas or something, and I remember being real excited to play it and just being baffled, not understanding what I was supposed to do, kind of just getting the little characters stuck, and you couldn't get them out of ruts and here or there, and what the point of the game was. And I think that's probably the only time I ever played it was that one time.
Well, the story is kind of a famous story of all of the ETs being put into a landfill. And Steve, right. I'm desperately trying to save your idea and tie this into Star Wars. And that's part of the reason I wanted someone, on the show who knows something about Star Wars toys, which is why we call Ron. Now, there's some kind of story like this with just dumping massive quantities of things that might be valuable in the Star Wars world. And I was thinking it had something to do with Hong Kong and a harbor. What am I thinking of, Ron? Do you know?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it qualifies as an urban legend. It's more of like a Star Wars toy collecting legend that steel tools, basically, production molds for Star Wars toys were dumped into... Was it Hong Kong? I don't know. That sounds like it might be right. But somewhere, in what is unpolitically correctly known as toy business, they were dumped into the water, and because they were at that point, and so the vendors who were using them just kind of dumped them. So I can't remember where it came from. Maybe Tom Neuheisel or someone like that. But the story's been around a long time, so that definitely people have heard it.
Yeah, I think we've maybe even talked about it on the show about trying to go diving. Actually, now, Steve, I'm pretty sure we have talked about it on the show.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, I mean, those things tend to be pretty large. The big hunks of steel. It's like, well, what do you do with them when you can't use them anymore? You'd imagine they would do something like recycle them or something, but I guess it's kind of cost effective if you have no other option just to dump them out there in the harbor, and that was the story. But I can't remember that many more details about it, but that's definitely been one that's been floating around for a long time.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. You see, Steve, I saved your segment. How do you feel?
Thanks. I feel redeemed.
All right. Let's see. Should we maybe just record this stuff with a nugget later, or do you think Ron would have anything to say about a Disco Lobot unpainted 4-up?
He might.
Disco Lobot unpainted 4-up. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Pointing Lobot?
Yeah.
Yeah, Pointing Lobot.
I don't know. I gotta find it on the archive here.
It's in the.
Tis a nugget from the archive. Tis a nugget.
Oh my God, they're gorgeous.
From the archive.
Oh my God, they're gorgeous.
All right, Ron. So you emailed me, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, saying that we should talk more about the archive on the Archive podcast.
Novel idea, right?
So what did you have in mind?
Well, actually it occurred to me because Chris Gergulius had posted a pretty good update of this All About Cincinnati board game, and he and I had talked about it a while before he had posted it, and it's a pretty cool write-up that he put a lot of work into, and it's got a ton of links and lots of information about this board game, which is basically kind of a board game that's centered around Cincinnati and has a Kenner connection to it. And I just kind of thought that people don't tend to notice it. It doesn't get talked about on the forums or anything, so it seems like people sometimes don't notice the cool updates that happen on the archive. So it probably wouldn't be a bad idea if it's an archive podcast to kind of, if there's been new stuff added, to maybe mention like, hey, these new things have been added, so people know to take a look at the entries. And there's
so
actually.
Then how do people find this on the archive?
Well, when you go to the main page, which is the SWCA.com, you go to What's New, which is, I think, the topmost link right under the coin, and it brings you to all the new things that have been added in the last couple months. And
right.
As you know, sometimes there's not that much added, but there's since we've talked, I added a bunch of stuff, so there's been stuff that's been added even after the stuff Chris added. I think Duncan added an Ewok sticker album, and Stefan Falcor added some French items, which were kind of interesting. And then I added some stuff last weekend, which is more of unlicensed ceramic stuff, and then some interesting Kenner-related stuff, which I don't know if you want to talk more about or if,
Well, yeah, I mean, I think because people often, I think, sort of wait around for limelights, or they want to sort of. It is true. It's one of the things I've always found interesting about the archive is that it seems like it goes in waves. Does that sound accurate, Ron?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. It goes as according to having people who, have the time and the inclination to work on it. So,
right.
Sometimes it'll be people are busy, and then other times someone will get, some free time and will add a bunch of stuff, and then all of a sudden it seems like a ton of stuff gets added. But, sometimes I think that people just aren't checking it regularly, so it wouldn't be a bad idea to update that, because it gives you guys some good discussion topics, I think. It also kind of gives people a better look at what's out there.
Right. Yeah, so I think we'll do that, I think, more. So then Ron would come on and say, hey, everybody, who wants to know about a wax cast for an Empire Strikes Back large-size figure boot?
Exactly, and that'll be very exciting for people. Sounds exciting.
Well, Ron, we were just we went over this quite in depth. We were viciously attacked on a message board about the poor quality of our podcast.
Oh, I read that. Yeah, I saw that.
So I'm, we're a little bit defensive now, and apparently we're not hardcore enough.
I think
so
you should just ignore it, to be honest.
No.
Could Skye ignore this, Ron? I think that's impossible.
You're going to talk about the wax cast for an Empire Strikes Back large-size figure boot for 45 minutes. Go.
For 45 minutes?
Yes, go.
Well, I don't know if I have that much to say about that, but that was one of the items I added, which was basically a wax cast for what was the sculpt for the boot for the Luke Bespin doll and the Han Hoth doll, both of which obviously were never released. So it's kind of like I don't know, what would you call that boot? The Bespin style boot? That's how I think of it, because the Luke Bespin was always wearing that. But he's, as you guys have mentioned in the past, he didn't necessarily wear that outfit just on Bespin. So
right.
I'm not sure what you want to call it. The Empire Strikes Back boot is not a bad title, but it's kind of like there's no sculpts or hard copies I'm aware of for that item, and it's obviously a distinctive item that was never released. So it's kind of a cool piece to see, and it's just basically a wax boot with a big pour sprue attached to it that's also made of wax that turned up with a sculptor a while back. And so I added that. That's one of the things. There's also, well, I guess the biggest thing content-wise is that I added a special feature I've been working on for a while on unlicensed ceramics, which I don't know if you guys had a chance to look through that at all.
Yeah, I started to.
I've seen the items. I haven't seen the actual the write-up on it.
Well, unfortunately, the way that the archive software is set up, the new section won't show a feature. So to get to that, you have to go to the main page.
Okay.
And click on features, and then special feature, and then you'll see it right at the top of the page. So go to features and then special feature, and then there's a whole article on Star Wars Unlicensed Ceramics, and it's got some first-hand experience recollections from Scott Bradley, Jonathan McElwain, Bobby Sharp, and some other stuff, and then it's got links to all the entries on the ceramic stuff, which some of the entries are pretty long. So if you're interested at all in that stuff, it'd be a pretty informative article to check out, I think.
Well, I mean, let's give it a little bit of a harder sell. You guys have to check this out.
Yeah.
Ron, I hadn't seen this. I'd seen the individual pieces in What's New. I hadn't seen the feature.
Yeah, well, I put some links into the individual write-ups for the items, so if you scroll to the bottom, you can click on, you'll see a link that takes you to the feature, but I don't have another way of giving
Ron, despite the fact that I am one of the hosts of the podcast for the archive, I am still also a very disappointing archive user. So that means that if I have to go beyond one extra thought, it's like, oh, I didn't see it. Where was that? So that's why you're here talking about it. And it's got a nice layout. Looks like it's good, mixture of information and stories.
Jared Clark helped do some of the graphics for me, so credit to Jared, who's a big podcast fan, because he did some good work on that. He did the little banner and everything. But people have been bugging me to finish this thing for a while because there's several, believe it or not, there's several fans of Unlicensed Ceramics who had been looking forward to it. But Pete Vilmer helped out a lot, sent me some items, so there's a lot of stuff from Pete included. He has some stuff that I don't have. So kudos to him, too, for contributing some of the photos. But unless you're really hardcore into this, when you go through the feature, I think you'll see a lot of stuff you've never been aware of before. Like one of my favorite is Jonathan's pig dressed as Darth Vader piece, which is one of the most bizarre Star Wars things I've ever seen. It is a pig dressed like Darth Vader, which I don't have it, so if anyone has one, let me know.
Okay, kivecast@gmail.com. We'll put you in the right direction.
Oh, man, I'm just looking at this thing
Vader.
now. That is one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool piece. So that's probably the biggest thing content-wise, but then probably if you're into Kenner action figure stuff, which, as we know, a lot of people are, probably the most interesting thing I added was 2 pieces from collector Ross Cuddy, which are paperwork items that he's had for a while. And have you guys looked through that stuff yet?
Yeah, I pulled it up, and I was actually, I didn't know we were going to talk about it today, because I was thinking it'd be a good thing for next month. We're here now, so I think we should take a look.
Yeah, well, there's more coming, so there will be other stuff, because Russ has like a ton of this paperwork.
Cool.
But I finally emailed him a little while ago. I was like, hey, why don't we add this stuff to the archive? It's really cool. And the first one is related to, what they are is 2 change notices, which is kind of a piece of paperwork that Kenner would have used internally to order changes to the line. This is early stuff, and so what are the 2 biggest changes to the line that you can think of very early on? Well, one would be the switch from the double telescoping lightsaber to the regular lightsaber, and that's one of the change notices we added. So it's basically a piece of paperwork saying, okay, we have a 2-piece lightsaber, and we're going to change it to this new design, which is a 1-piece design. And you'll see all the notations and stuff on this piece that kind of give you background on the change, and then I kind of wrote up, the significance of some of the notations in the description. basically they had a molding problem doing the two-piece design, and so they decided to ditch it, and they moved to the one-piece, and it's got like a diagram of what it was supposed to look like, and some references to some new engineering drawings that had to be generated, and just very cool to see that kind of internal stuff going on in 1977. And in addition to that, Ross gave me a whole write-up about how he found this stuff on eBay, which is a great story in and of itself. So I included that in the description, and you can read all that. And the second item, which I think is probably cooler even because to me it's more revelatory, is the change notice for the vinyl cape, which is obviously one of the second big changes early in the line, the vinyl cape Jawa. And so what it reveals really is that the Jawa was originally supposed to come with no cape, which I don't think I've ever heard before. And it actually says on there, change from no cape to make new drawing in cape as follows, and then it shows a little diagram of what the vinyl cape would look like. And that's pretty significant. You know, when I first saw it, I was like, are they really saying that this thing had no cape originally? And then I went back and looked at some early stuff related to the Jawa, including the blueprint that's out there.
Right.
And I realized that all the blueprints for the caped figures, you know, Ben, Leia, Vader, and the Sand Person, all specify on those blueprints that they were supposed to come with capes. So they say, Princess Leia will come with a vinyl cape. It says it like right on the blueprint. The Jawa has no notation like that. And I also realized that 15 years ago when I originally wrote those descriptions on the archive, I actually said on there, it's in the description it says, it's too bad that the blueprint makes no reference to the vinyl cape it was to come with. Obviously, like 15 years later, it's like, oh wow, that's why it doesn't mention it. And so it's like, oh wow, I did notice that all that time ago and just didn't realize it, you know. So basically the upshot of it is that the Jawa, if you take the cape off of it, you know, the vinyl cape and or the cloth cape, that's how it was originally supposed to look. So when they sculpted that thing, it wasn't supposed to have a cape. And judging by the change notice that Ross has, it says marketing edition, which, you know, pretty much means that the folks in marketing thought the figure would be, you know, more saleable if they included something with it.
Right.
And so that's how the vinyl cape came to be. And then obviously at some point they decided to ditch that and go with the cloth cape. But, I mean, historically the interesting thing is that as sculpted, the figure was pretty much complete without the cape initially, which kind of explains why, you know, those bandolier straps and all that stuff and why it
so
kind of
much
looks
detail,
like
yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's, I mean, whenever I think about the vinyl cape versus cloth cape, you know, my brother, who we just heard from, and my other brothers, they just ruined all my Star Wars toys. I never had any accessories, and I never really even thought that he needed a cape. I mean, I don't remember, that's how I played with it.
Yeah.
And now that I look at it, it really does function really well as a capeless figure.
In some ways, I think it looks more meager without a cape, but I think it does almost look more accurate when you don't have a cape on it. And actually, too, and I put a bunch of photos on the description so you can kind of line them up and look. The picture on the early bird envelope, which is one of the other earliest depictions of the Jawa, also seems to show it without a cape. You know, it shows kind of an in-action version of the blueprint. You know, it's just a figure. You can see kind of like the area around the torso, the square area where the legs would connect. And so I think at that point they were still thinking, when they did that painting, that it wasn't going to have a cape.
Right.
So to me, I don't know how interested you are in little details like that, but historically speaking, that's kind of a fascinating discovery that this thing originally, as sculpted, would not have had a cape that came with it.
Now, Ron, that's like the most interesting thing I've heard in a long time.
Yeah, and
it's
funny.
And that's really, it's such a shame, or it would be a shame if, you know, people didn't know that, because that's exactly why we have the show, right? And that's exactly why we all get together and do this stuff, because that's so cool to know that figure is, you know, that the cape doesn't even matter. There's this whole thing. You know, it'd be like if there was, we weren't going to have a lightsaber. You know, Vader's never going to have a lightsaber.
It's a major modification to one of the first 12 figures that people, I don't think, were even aware of until this came out. And I posted it on Rebel Scum, and it got like 2 comments. So I don't know, maybe it's not that interesting after all. But yeah, I mean, Ross first showed us his paperwork at Celebration, I can't remember which one, 5? I can't remember which celebration. But that's where I first met Ross, I think, and he had that paperwork. And we looked through it, and I don't even think it registered with me then exactly. Like, I remember the change notice and thinking it related to more the change from the vinyl cape to the cloth. You know, we just looked at it quickly. But it was only recently when I looked at it again, I was like, no, what this thing says is that it was originally supposed to come with no cape, and it's changing to a vinyl cape. So even though the paperwork had been out there, I'd never realized exactly what it was saying until I really examined it closely.
Wow, yeah, that's really awesome. You know what's funny, Steve?
Yeah.
In a way, the archive is like a web version of this podcast.
Fancy that.
Getting too postmodern on you guys? All right.
Yeah. Yes, you are. But like I said, I'll have some more stuff. Ross has a ton of this stuff, and some of the stuff, I don't know. I would say that it would be really surprising, but again, judging by the reaction that this kind of stuff usually ends up having on Rebel Scum or whatever, maybe people just won't care. But to me, it was fairly significant stuff. Like, just to tease, some of the other stuff in the paperwork is like lists of products that Kenner was considering. That stuff was never released early on, which is really interesting. You know, stuff that, you know, figures and things that were never made. That people have always longed for. So, you know, this is confirmation that at least Kenner was considering that back in the late 70s. There's also a pretty interesting change notice related to the Tusken Raider that kind of reveals something that I think that people have never known about. So that's another interesting one. I'll be posting sometime in the next few weeks.
Wow, awesome. Well, we'll have you back on to talk about it, because I think that's at least the best way to get to our audience, because I know a lot of our audience doesn't even go on the forums anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, check it out. You know, you can start a discussion on it on Rebel Scum, or just go on the archive and take a look at that stuff. But there's definitely some new neat stuff that's been added. And like I said, Duncan and Stefan have added some other cool stuff. And Chris's board game is cool. And in early...
that board game is wild. I just checked that out.
It is pretty
It's like
crazy,
Monopoly, but for Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he wrote like a super cool description. They put a lot of work in the description, and of course nobody probably even saw it. So you should take a look at it, because it's pretty cool. And then if you're interested in the board game, sometimes they pop up on eBay, so, you know, keep an eye out for it. It's a pretty neat piece of, like, Kenner history. There's a few references to Kenner.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a cool bunch of updates. So, yeah, everyone go check it out in the What's New feature of the archive. And you know what? Go and check it out. If there's a piece that you think is interesting that we didn't mention, chivecast@gmail.com. I think that actually could be a fun thing we could do. Just find your own dang nuggets.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, too. And also Gus added some, looks like some cast and crew stuff, too, in early March. So if you're into that stuff, you know, that's another thing to check out on there.
Yeah, I mean, this, you know what, Steve? This is the nugget. We were going to do some unpainted Lobot deal, but no.
Unpainted Lobot deal. That's a cool unpainted Lobot. I like Lobot.
All right. I'll keep that one in. I'll keep that one in. The audience has already heard it. But all I'm saying is there's too many nuggets. Someone today said to me, you know, oh, if you're already up to 51 and there's only 92 characters or whatever, you're going to be done soon. And we're just not going to be done because there's still so much to say.
There's a lot more to discuss out there in the world of Star Wars collecting, I think. You guys can keep coming up with stuff.
Especially when you get to go too far and do an alteration of an old, unfavorite commercial theater breakdown.
Okay.
So I happened to look up commercials for Lobot, as I like to do, Kenner commercials. And what I'd like to do is I'd just like you to just take a second, audience, if you can, find the commercial and watch it. And I'm gonna have my colleagues here watch this commercial, and then I'd like to talk about it, about what makes it good. Well, I'd like to reenact it, and then talk, but I'm not going to do the whole like poetic thing. We'll just reenact it.
Sold separately. Check the carbon freezing chamber. Ready, sir. Why did you do it? The Empire tricked me, hon. I had no choice. Prepare
Calrissian and new Han Solo, Ugnaught, and Lobot action figures each sold separately from Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back collection, from Kenner.
Lobot
all right,
doesn't even say anything, man.
So what I'd like to posit is that not only did they kind of evolve as toy makers, but they evolved as cinematic commercial makers.
Yeah.
Because the early days, it really was just a bunch of kids in the backyard kind of jumping up and down. And I think you even see an evolution from the earlier 31-back commercials that we watched earlier. Now, still the 31-back commercials, you have kind of interaction between the characters. But this commercial is particularly rich. I mean, first of all, it all takes place inside of a kitchen, which is neat because they've taken all sorts of like cans, like of flour and stuff, and that becomes their play space. And what I love is that at the end, you have Han Solo being put into carbonite, which is just a glass. It's just a kitchen glass.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I used to do. Like, you pour the water in there and freeze them.
Yeah, I mean, that's either the commercial was like super in tune with kids' mindsets at that time, or it was like super influential, because I've heard of tons of people freezing their Han Solos. It's either, it's an interesting chicken or egg question whether they did it because they saw the commercial or they did it because they just had the idea themselves and the commercial picked up on that.
Yeah, and it's just whenever, at least when I was a kid, you'd watch the commercials, especially for RC cars, and you'd think this is the greatest thing, and they always put toys in the most ideal settings. And that's something that I think Star Wars toys, I guess vintage toys in general, didn't do as much. They'd show you the toys where you play with them, as opposed to these weirdly lit cityscapes that you're supposed to be able to have in your backyard.
Yeah, Kenner was real good with that. That's something that Brian Stillman got into a little bit in his Plastic Galaxy movie, was how they extended the whole, like, you can be part of the universe through these toys idea to the commercials, where it was like, yeah, I'll show you how to enter into Star Wars by playing with these, little plastic men and whatnot. So, I mean, I think that was part of their advertising philosophy in a way. But, I mean, did you guys ever play with your toys like that?
Apparently Steve did.
Well, as far as the freezing stuff, yeah.
Yeah. I just mean, like, with your friends, like, moving your figures around and talking to each other like that and everything?
No, I wouldn't describe it like that.
Well, I remember this, like, clearly being a kid and watching these commercials and being like, gee, I never thought of my toys like that. Like, I was missing out. Like, all these other kids are having way more fun, and I'd be like, I don't know. Like, mine just mostly sat there, and I looked at them.
Basically, yeah.
It's like when you watch the commercials for the light beer, and it's like they're all on a rooftop in New York having parties and stuff, and you're just sitting there on your couch, like, drinking a Labatt Blue, and you're just like,
it doesn't really correlate.
But you know what I think it is? I think that because I watch, my kids play a lot, and I think what it is it's externalizing internal dialogue.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure I did say that, but it would have looked to the outside that I was just taking two figures and smashing them together and trying not to hurt my fingers.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't just the talking, though, too. It was like the playing with your friends part. Like, maybe I was just a lonely and, sad child. But, I mean, I remember bringing my figures to friends' houses, but I don't remember, like, really, like, playing like that. It was more like, I don't know what we did with them. I don't know. I still don't remember. Like, I didn't do much with my thing. I just, like, had them. They were just kind of like, I just had them. I just carried them around and put them on my, sometimes I made little, like, dioramas with, like, set them all, like, all the Jabba figures, like, on the table together, like a Jabba's palace thing, but there was never much, like, action playing, It was kind of beyond my capabilities or something.
You know what? I did action play, but I hate to, this will make the Flag Points podcast happy. I only remember action playing with my friends' G.I. Joe figures. So, my parents were too anti-Reagan to allow me to play with G.I. Joe. And so I would go over to his house and I would play with whatever, Storm Shadow or Snake Face or whatever. And I'm just kidding. I know it's Snake Eyes. And Destro and the other dog from the Jetsons. And, like, I would always, he was 2 years older than me, so he'd be too cool to play. So he'd be sitting on his bed reading Beckett Baseball Card Monthly, and I would be next to the bed just jamming for hours. And I'd always play the same way, where I'd have, just like the TV show, I'd have a cliffhanger. So I'd have, like, whatever, Sergeant Slaughter falling off the couch, and then I'd be like, is he going to be okay? Come back next week. And I would just leave it there. That would just be the end of my play.
Like
I wouldn't
fast
even
forward
resolve
to 3
it.
year later, and Skye's still playing with G.I. Joes while his older friend is sitting there reading a copy of Jugs and drinking a can of beer. He's just like, have fun, Skye. Oh, yeah,
It's a cliffhanger.
Tell me more about trickle-down economics.
But I also thought the dialogue is particularly interesting. It really is cool because it starts with Lando being a real jerk. Like, he's just bossing everybody around. And the Ugnaughts talk, but Lobot doesn't. Right. So Lobot, true to form, doesn't talk. So I think we'll bring back Bart to be Lobot. Bart, you here? Okay, good. He's here. And then, let's see, who do you want to be, Ron?
Well, Lobot doesn't say anything. So, wait, Bart is going to be Lobot, right?
Yeah, Bart's going to be Lobot.
I don't care.
All right, why don't you be Han?
You got to be Lando, Skye.
Okay, and then you can be Ugnaught, Steve.
That's fine.
I'm supposed to read something here?
Wherever it says Han.
Oh, wait, it's on the show notes, though? I have to scroll down again. Oh, I see. You'll pay for this, all that stuff, right?
Yeah, and then I'll read the two little stage directions that I find interesting.
Okay.
Okay. Take away his laser pistol, Lobot.
You'll pay for this, Lando Calrissian.
Ugnaught, check the carbon freezing chamber.
Ready, sir.
I missed my cue. Why did you do it?
The Empire tricked me, Han. And then at this point, a rope appears out of nowhere and lifts up Han. I had no choice. The camera dollies up on the Ugnaught, who turns and says,
prepare for freezing.
Long live the Alliance.
Goodbye, my friend. So how different would it be instead of the whole I love you, I know? It was Han just going, long live the Alliance. It's totally out of character.
Yeah.
He never would have said anything like that.
Well, Bart did a good job with that.
He did. He's very convincing.
That was like, some Academy Award-winning material right there.
It was.
That was some, like, Jack Nicholson and Hoffa.
Yeah. So, anyways, I thought that commercial was particularly interesting for a lot of reasons. And
pretty good. It is like a very like stage-directed thing. The rope just appears out of nowhere.
Yeah, and especially if you look at the way the camera pushes in on the Ugnaught, it's really good.
Yeah.
So, anyways, Ron, we will let you get back to your time there.
I was actually falling asleep when you called.
Oh no.
That's all right. Thanks for having me on again. But yeah, keep an eye on that stuff, and I'll be adding some more cool stuff from Ross in the coming weeks. So should be cool.
All right, and I'll see you this weekend.
All right, man. Sounds good. Thanks for.
All right. Well, that was quite some time with Ron, hey?
It's always a quality time, right?
It is. I mean, he was dithering a little bit for time. Oh, wait, this is the thing I always do when I get angry. I bring it back later.
You gotta, yeah.
It makes me seem bitter, Steve.
Seem.
I don't want to seem bitter. Well, Steve, we're going to do kind of a double nugget this month.
I think that's fine. We've kind of been on a roll with that. There's just too much good stuff.
There is. So we're going to talk to Ron later with an archive update, as we just said. We're recording all this totally out of order, so I'm so confused. I don't even know what month it is anymore. Although actually it'll soon be the next month.
Yes.
But you proposed a micro collection 4-up.
Yeah, I mean, and it's, we've talked about 4-ups before, but this is just one of my favorite micro figures. It's Lobot doing to me it looks like a disco pose. He's got his hand on his hip and he's got his arm extended pointing out, and his leg is his one knee's kind of bent, like, you know what I mean? It's almost like John Travolta-esque to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's as far as four-ups go, they're interesting and they're important, but I just love that this seems completely out of character for Lando, especially when you think about putting it to music.
Right, which of course Robot Chicken did with their Disco Lobot, which I think had to be influenced by this.
It had to be.
I would love to get them all. I mean, he also is just wearing a disco outfit.
Well, yeah, that's true. When you bring in Lobot attire, it kind of just screams disco. But,
right, but it's a really nice piece. You know, it's a hard copy 4-up, and it shows the detail, and because it's so large, you can see it. And especially with my brother, the Lobot. The Disco Lobot's been a pretty big deal with us. I bought him like an entire bag of Disco Lobots at the Earth. So the Earth Toy Store, you know, is a toy store that used to exist in Cincinnati.
Right.
A lot of the big pre-production finds were there, and I just was like, Bart had done a lot of work on the website, and so I just bought him a whole bag of Disco Lobots.
And I never have enough. Yeah.
I don't know if I ever gave it to him. I know it's hanging around there somewhere.
Oh no.
Yeah, maybe I did. I don't know. But it's cool because on the bottom it doesn't say Disco Lobot. On the bottom it says Lobot Standing, production tooling only.
Yeah, it also says number 2, which means there might be another out there of some kind.
I don't think that's what Yoda meant when he said there is another.
No.
There is another Disco Lobot hard copy 4-up from the Micro Collection. Well, that's a bad joke, Steve. All right. Well, you know what? I think that's pretty unloved for a nugget. But how about pretty nugget for an unloved?
Why not?
You don't hate, only the unloved hate. The unloved and the unnatural. The unloved and the unnatural.
All right. So, Steve, for the unloved item, I love your unloved item. Now, you found this from BuzzFeed. That's so millennial of you, Steve.
I'd seen it somewhere else, and I was trying to just find the image, and this particular one came from BuzzFeed. So don't take me to be as millennial as it may seem. I'm not up to snuff, as it, you know. Anyway,
I just let you die on the vine on that one.
I was just say I'm starting to fade out here too. Anyway, what we have here is some pretty slick family sleepwear from Sears. And I think my favorite thing about it is there's like this little kind of ribbon-looking thing in the logo. It says flame resistant. And I just love the idea of flame resistant being part of the marketing of pajamas. As, you know, you want to avoid tragedy.
and also, I would like to know something. So if you look at this, it's a family of 6. So you have a very tall dad and a mom, and a daughter, and a middle son, and a younger daughter, and the youngest son, ranging in age from like 2 to 45. Right. And they're all wearing Star Wars sleepwear. The mom is wearing like a night shirt. So is the daughter. It's all pretty standard Star Wars imagery, you know, with the young Hildebrandt, whatever. There's actually a really interesting Vader that 2 of the boys are wearing, which is just Vader's head with a lightsaber, like splitting it in 2. I've never seen that image
going
before.
Through it, yeah.
There's a couple. This is a really nice item because I've never seen these. Like, I've never seen them in the wild. So if anyone's, I'm sure Duncan's out there slamming his fist on the table, being like, "I've got 5 of the sets." That wasn't much. I was right as I started. I'm like, I don't even know if Duncan has an accent, much less how would I do it. I'm going to pretend that Duncan is from England and he's Dengar. Oh, I've got 5 of these sets. But they're really cool, and just this family is. I mean, this is cool. How cool would it be if your entire family wore matching Star Wars pajamas?
Coordinated pajamas. It's a little creepy to me, but, you know, it's the 70s, right? And who knows?
No, it's just cool. If the whole family, like, you know, I guess it's hard because, see, I'm going through a divorce and I'm feeling this sense of breaking apart the family unit. Just to know my family will never have this experience of all of us wearing Star Wars nightshirts at the same time. Yeah, they're great. And the pictures of these kids are just great. Yep, and they are flame retardant.
Right.
Awesome. We're going to actually skip the vocab. I think we're going to do that next month.
Okay.
I don't even know why you wanted to talk about Meccano Square cards, but you did.
I figured that might pique your interest, but apparently not.
You know, Steve, instead of talking about Meccano Square cards, because that's what you wanted to do, you wanted to do a vintage vocab, and you want to talk about why there were square cards for Meccano. I don't want to talk about that right now. But what I do want to talk about is another unloved item. And that is, I don't know how unloved they are, but there's very famous French commercials in the Pif Gadget was the name of the company. It was like a magazine for kids, like Disney and stuff. And they're very famous for their scenes of figures fighting. But they also had a lot of great art scenes. And there are these little tiny ads that were printed up in around like 1982. I'm looking at this in one of Stéphane Foucault's great books. And they're just these really great artwork. And I'll show them up here, Steve. You could just look up Piff. You'd look it up as Piff Gadget, like Inspector Gadget. And he calls them blue ads. So I don't know if that's how they look up there. But I've actually been using those in my class because I've been teaching expressions with avoir, which is to have, and then I've been teaching the imperative, and that's so it's an irregular, so it's don't be afraid, and that's n'aie pas peur. I've been trying to teach them that, and there's an image of R2-D2, and it says n'aie pas peur, c'est un ami, which means don't be afraid, he's a friend.
I can see it now. Oh, that is awesome.
Which is just, first of all, the French is beautiful. I mean, it's just, as far as French teacher goes, it's very eloquent French. Was there any question that, was anyone ever afraid of R2-D2? Was there ever a point where a little kid looked at R2-D2 and was like, ah! Oh, phew. And the Han Hoth is really good too. Tu l'as reconnu, c'est le héros. You recognize him. He's the hero. And they're just all these interesting writing. A pretty good one too is for C-3PO. It's trop de robot, hein? But it's like the H-E-I-N is the way of saying like "eh" in French. And I just think it's worth looking at those. I can sort of translate them all for you in case you're looking at them in your phone right now. So let's see. So we have R2-D2, don't be afraid, it's a friend. Han Hoth, you recognize him, it's the hero. With Yoda, with him, you're never bored. Stormtrooper, watch out, it's a soldier of the Empire. Boba Fett, this guy here, you got to be careful with him. TIE Fighter, enemy ship approaching. And then with C-3PO, goofy robot, hey? And finally, the Millennium Falcon, the Falcon strikes back.
Hey.
So there's my translation of some Pif Gadget ads.
Nicely done.
And we can talk about Meccano Square cards later.
Yeah, they'll be around.
They'll be around. All right, so I'm back again, still editing. It's now 8:30 p.m. I had to try and figure out, it seems like I missed a segment there with Bart, and then everything got mixed around with Ron. I thought I could fix it, but then I thought, who cares? You know, if we didn't get the wingdings, who cares? Still got half a meat lover's pizza in the trunk. So, yeah, it's now 8:30. I imagine Bruce is going into Thunder Road, or that one where he asks that girl if her dad's home. And I'm here, still in my apartment, editing away. But it's fun. I think the episode's going pretty well so far. I had fun putting together that little segment with the Cannibal Corpse music. Great band, by the way. Actually, I wouldn't say great band. I don't know. What was the one I used to have? I used to have Napalm Death. That was the band. We have a lot of Scandinavian friends, and so I'm sure they're all like, yeah! Yeah, fantastisch! Der death metalin! Anyways, let's get back to the $1 flicks. Market Watch. Alright, y'all. Now, we've monkeyed around a lot with the Market Watch. We had some people say they like the new format, some people say they don't. We had 3 people who all wanted to take part. Some people in England. We got Fuzzy Buzzy over there. We got Aaron right next door in Buffalo. But none of them could do it tonight. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do the character Market Watch normal style.
Yeah, traditional.
Just traditional, just going through the prices and talking about where the market is. And then for the sort of random one, the Fantastic Pete one, we're going to do a multiple choice with Skye. So I haven't looked at them. Steve's just going to give me 2 possible prices, and I'm just going to guess which one, and that'll build some kind of suspense. So where should we start first, Steve?
All right, why don't we lead off with Lobot,
Okay.
just old school style.
Yes.
So Mike's got a couple of gems in here for an unloved figure. You know, he's had a rough go, I think.
Yes.
So all right, so 41A AFA 80 went for that's the Survivor Kit offer. Went for 180. It's a pretty nice figure. I mean, it's pretty standard. Let's see. If we go, there's another one that was an AFA 80, 41A for 164, so it's kind of in the same line. But where it really starts to get interesting for me is some of these other ones. There's one actually autographed by John Hollis.
Wow.
It's a 41D ungraded. It's sold for $107, which is just funny. Like, there's a great close-up of his signature over Lobot, and he actually signs it as, John Hollis, Lobot.
But there's kind of space between the low and the bot.
Yeah, there is.
That's actually a really good deal. I mean, he's deceased, and it's a nice autograph. I would have paid more than that.
It's pretty cool. I mean, especially for a Lobot collector, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I should have bought that for Bart.
But see, I think my favorite, though.
Oh, this is beautiful, Steve.
This is one of the most amazing things I've seen in a while.
This right here, this is totally the show. Right here. This is it. You want to know the meat of the show, the value of the show. This is nothing to do with Steve or I. Brisbane Mike doing his research out there, bringing it together, and giving us this. Oh, my God. It is an ungraded 41D back.
Right.
And you can't see Lobot at all.
No.
Lobot's face is covered by a coin offer sticker.
Not only that.
Not only that, but there are 3 other regular size price stickers from Child World. Yeah. And you see they've all been crossed out, and then there's finally a gigantic red and yellow sticker, clearance special, covering up the coin offer. So you are double prevented from seeing Lobot's face. It's now $1.30. What I love too is that someone tried to take off one of the price stickers.
Yeah.
Like, it must have been someone who worked there. Like, oh no, it doesn't cost that anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost that anymore. They actually had to cross out the one that said $1.37 to make it $1.30.
Yeah. This thing is just incredible.
Yeah,
and it sold for $45.
Yeah, you see, that's an example of, again, if I was a Lobot collector and I had been paying attention to eBay, to know that for $150 I could get a signed figure and just the most gnarly of no one likes this figure evidence. That's just great.
You know what's crazy is that there are more than one of these, Skye. Did you scroll down a little bit?
Oh my God, there's another one.
There's a couple of Jedi cards that are, they all sold for about the same price, around the $45 to $50 range.
Oh no, because I don't look at these because I don't want to ruin it for the game.
Yeah, no, if you go down,
there's 3 of these Child World clearance specials.
Yeah, they are awesome. And of course, then you have the Tri logo with the KB 2 for $1. I mean, that's a steal right there. But just the sad fact that these Lobot figures had to sit there for so long before they were liberated from retail.
But that's sold for $75. The Tri-Logo.
The Tri-Logo, sold for $75. It's just...
I remember buying. The fun thing about the Lobot thing for Bart is it's kind of a cheap way to keep buying stuff because once I have enough Chewbacca stuff that I can't just buy cheap fun stuff. So I remember buying him the Tri-Logo at the store in Montreal. It was actually on my honeymoon, and we walked all the way across the entire city to the toy store where this guy does these great dioramas, and I think Andre actually works there, who's kind of a famous old-time collector, and I remember buying him the Tri-Logo Lobot.
Awesome.
But if you really wanted to drop some serious coin, you'd have to buy a 41-back Palatoy.
Yeah, that's $250.
Which really isn't that much.
Yeah, I mean, when you just think of the general sense of foreign carded stuff, it's not that bad.
Especially because the early Palatoy stuff has the Palatoy logo on it.
Yeah.
Which
awesome.
is a beautiful logo, and it is actually covering his crotch, so that would make Bart happy. What a weirdo. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. That's a fun market watch. So, boy, you could really have a pretty sweet Lobot collection for fairly little work.
Yeah, no, it's some good stuff. No,
and if Bart's theory is right about him becoming more popular as people become more like Lobot. Yeah. Okay, now it's time for A or B with Skye P.
All right, ready? Here we go. First item up is a Revenge of the Jedi Boba Fett proof AFA 85.
Okay.
Yeah, choice A.
Just make it approximate, round up to the nearest 5 or whatever.
All right, ready?
My eyes are closed like a doofus.
All right. A is 5,200.
Okay.
B is 3,700.
I'm going with 3,700.
Ding, ding, ding. Correct. Nicely done.
3,700 for a revenge proof? Steve? I think Digby just hung up the phone.
Did he?
I heard a bark and then nothing. Oh, there you are.
Am I here?
So
okay.
37 for a revenge proof.
Yeah.
Okay, Steve, that gets at least 2 mans, doesn't it?
2 mans. Yeah,
okay.
I think that's good for 2.
That is a lot of money for revenge proof. 3,700.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
For something that there's definitely 50 of, that's a lot of money. Okay. Steve?
But I think I'm back.
Okay, so that was a 2 mans for that. All right, what's next?
2 mans. All right, up next is a, I think, it looks like a complete set of Star Wars droids carded figures, and they are ungraded.
Okay.
So get that kind of, so it's 12 figures, droids.
Including the Fett.
Yes, including the Fett. Okay, so choice A, $4,600. Choice B, $3,300.
I'm gonna go with choice B again, 3,300.
On the nose.
Wow.
It's still kind of think of droid stuff as a pretty big commodity, and to get them all in one lump, that's not too bad, I guess.
I guess, but you take out the Fett.
Yeah, it's true. It kind of weights things
the Fett's
a bit differently. But
what, like an $1,100 item? Something like that?
Oh, probably crazier now. Who knows?
Obviously, I do. Obviously, I'm 2 for 2.
Yeah. Okay. Number 3. So this is the Power of the Force unproduced Luke Jedi pitch coin. So do you know what that is? The kind of early concept coins for the Power of the Force coins. They had a couple, or they had this Luke Jedi that was not. It didn't look so nothing like what they eventually became.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So choice A, 2,800. Choice B, 5,600.
The way you took a break in between the two of them.
I know. I kind of screwed it up. Yeah. You never know. I could be messing with you. I wasn't prepared.
Well, Steve, I would love for you to be that cunning and diabolical, which are two traits I do not associate with you. So I'm going to go with A.
Yeah. Yeah. No. That one was a failure on my part. It did sell for 2,800, which, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. I'd like to know.
Coin.
You know what? This is we haven't talked about coins in a while. So if you're a coin fan, please let us know. Is 2,800 for that coin kind of high, or is that pretty normal? I have a really hard time because I know sometimes like the certain coins, like the Greedo or the FX7, that are really rare. Those can just spike. But I don't know really how much the Luke, what's it called again? Luke Jedi? No, Luke.
Yeah.
How much that coin goes for? Okay. 3 for 3. What's next?
All right. Up next, this is the last one we've got. It's a Lily Letty Tusken Raider 12-inch. You know which one I'm talking about?
Yes, the 12-inch figure made by Lily Letty in Mexico. The kind of weird box.
Yeah. Okay. So choice A is going to be $4,750. Choice B, $2,650.
I'll go with choice B, $2,650.
Yep. I'm not good at making this difficult for you.
No, well, it's not that good of an idea. So.
No. We're just testing it out. We're in the early stages. If I hadn't thought about it a little more, I probably could have done a much better
job. No, you only messed up on one of them. That's good. All right, cool. Well, in that case, let's hit the feedback, Steve, because this has been quite the episode.
Yes.
Here at the Chivecast, we really do care. You can email us at chivecast@gmail.com. You can call us at our special Wampa line. That's POKUT Wampa, or 1765-889-2672. Twitter us at Chivecast, or join us up on our Facebook page. We really do care. All right, Steve. So I think we haven't really addressed the criticisms on... Oh, no, we have.
We've had a pre-feedback section, I'd call it.
We've had a pre-feedback. See, Scott Bradley says he appreciates, Canada's greatest know-it-all, of course, Scott Bradley.
This is why I'm proud to be Canadian.
This season on Canada's greatest know-it-all,
Skye! Bradley.
Says that he appreciates the variety, so he suggested that we have more variety, and we delivered. With sort of the kind of stuff that we talk about.
Yeah.
And let's see.
Oh, did you? He also posted that great ad for the Clark shoes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
He commented that the Hans Bespin card image is from the Hoth Rebel base.
Right.
And then there's a shoe store in Ottawa called Karen's Shoes.
This little advertising slogan is great.
Okay.
Why waste money on a toy? Be smart and keep your children happy with Star Wars shoes by Clark's.
There's so much that's wrong about that. One, buying shoes for kids is a waste of money. They just outgrow them. Two, be smart and keep your children happy with Star Wars shoes. Like, don't buy them toys. And then actually, James, who goes by 1972 Chaps, also mentioned that the artwork with Luke smiling, and he mentioned that it's also seen on the lid of the Kenner's Escape from Death Star board game, but it's a photo instead of the illustration.
Huh.
So that's really cool, because I didn't know that, and we specifically said, hey, chivecast@gmail.com if you've seen anyone else who does that, and there it goes. It's actually funny because we've been trying to get the game going, with other contestants, and one of them is in England, and he's Fuzzy Buzzy Toys, who we've mentioned a couple times, and he's like, "Can I please be on the show?" And he sort of mentioned that I never thanked him for something. Well, he seemed to understand, which is awfully nice. He sent me this really nice little vintage candle, a vintage Wilton candle.
Okay.
And it was just really nice. And he just mentioned, he's like, "Can I please be in the game? I mean, you never even mentioned that that I sent that to you." So I was like, "Oh, yeah, right. Thank you. Sorry about that." Bowden, who's been a long-time listener, and he just happens to, he's giving his own man count, Steve. He's doing his own market watch. He points out that a card back for an Empire Boba Fett with the nameplate totally cut out sold for $810.
What?
Yeah, a card back with the nameplate cut out sold for $810. And so because I've been a little bit of a grumbly bumbly here, he says, "Anyway, keep up the amazing work with the Vintage Pod. I listen to a lot of podcasts in my commute, and you guys have something special. The content is right, the drops, the humor, the stories, community feel, just solid gold. Thanks for taking the time to do it. By the way, the duration is great. Don't try to shorten it up. Just do what you do. Wampa wampa." So that's
pretty.
That's the email of the
good.
month, Steve. Obviously,
Yeah.
because that's what we're all about.
That's awesome.
Well, that's not all we're about, Steve.
No.
We're also about fantasy sports. So congratulations to our winners for the Hockey League.
Oh yeah.
Steve, you won last place. You really lost.
Yeah, no, it took skill to do that. I mean, it was all about player selection.
It's actually pretty cool because the greatest rivalry in sports is between the Montreal Canadiens and the Boston Bruins. People think that's between the Red Sox and the Yankees, but that's not really a rivalry because the Yankees can't win. So actually, it was a Canadiens fan over a Bruins fan. So that was Sean King Kong Bundy, who defeated Adam, who is Ituka, which is a pretty funny name. And so those were the big winners. And Steve, you're a big loser.
How close did I get to the bare minimum?
You haven't paid attention. You were 5 points away from having
the minimal score.
Basically 0 points.
Awesome.
Yep. And I wound up finishing in 6th, which is not too bad considering the fact that I didn't pay that much attention to hockey this year. It turns out I like the half year a lot better.
Yeah.
And as far as fantasy baseball, Steve, you're holding in there at 6th place.
Middle of the road.
Yeah.
I'm not completely tanked out yet, which is always surprising when I check it out.
Yeah. And
see, you're still up top, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm winning at this point, but it's usually, it's early, but I had some good hitters. So there you guys go. It's your 5th year of listening to baseball statistics.
That's okay.
Yeah.
They're still here,
That's right.
So yeah, I mean, do you know who we have next?
Oh, I don't. Who's next?
It's Leah Hoff. Perfect for, springtime. Summer.
No.
Yeah, it's Leah Hoff. She's next.
Really?
Yeah.
We could get Joker Savage on here.
That was my thought, yeah.
Oh, that'd be sweet. I should drive down and visit him, too. Oh, man.
Hey,
that'd be fun.
Get an in-person interview.
Yeah, that'd be cool. All right, cool, Steve. Well, I am tired.
That's what he's trying to say, everybody.
It's been another fun episode. I look forward to editing it together and figuring out how much of my angry rant I'm going to keep.
You'll let it sit for a day or two, Skye.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe I'll just do a thing where I'll just go deep, and I'll be like, just take it all out. All right, cool, man.
All right, I will take it easy.
Adam raised a cane. Well, before you actually hear the outro Wampa Wampas, this is just a catch up with your erstwhile editor. It is 9:46 p.m. I bet Bruce is just getting into his second set. And, well, I am now getting ready to compress the file and then put it on the archive server and then write the XML and then try to figure out if I can put on the show notes and then post that magical post to Rebel Scum and all the other outlets saying Kivecast 51, more Lobot than robot, or I don't know what. Maybe Lobot with an H, not a Bart. I don't know what I'm going to call it. But I'm going to get it up there, and thanks for listening.
All right, take it easy.
Well, then, wampa wampa.
Adios.